Base building is a huge part of playing Dune Awakening, but if you're feeling lost when it comes to the blocks, today I've got 5 insanely useful building tips you can use to ensure your home on Arrakis gets off to the right start. These tips are all about function, focusing on things that will make construction itself easier and more efficient. If you'd like some aesthetic tips in the future to make better looking builds, let me know in the comments. Anyway, let's get into it. Tip number 1 is simple. Scout, scout, and scout again. If you're looking to put down a permanent base, don't just settle for somewhere that's alright. Choose the ideal spot for the build you want to do. Check around the area for no build zones with your building tool, check the Sardaukar patrol ship routes at night, and ensure you have room for sidewards and upwards expansions in the future. Having flower patches nearby is also a very nice convenience too, and if you have nearby landmarks like a shipwreck, a lab, or a cave, that makes life even easier. If you don't scout out the perfect spot, you can end up in a bit of a sticky situation where you can't expand your base outwards due to nearby obstacles, or you're regularly getting spotted by that pesky Sardaukar ship that flies over your base every night. Scouting out a good spot is really important. Unfortunately, there are a lot of great places to build, and it likely won't take long to find a good one. Also, it goes without saying, do not build in worm territory, stick to the rocks. Tip number 2 is quite simple, but it's something you should always be doing if you're building on flat ground and sometimes if you're on an elevated platform. If you look carefully at my main base here, you can see a good portion of my land claim is underground, which makes it dead space. Well, you can avoid that quite easily. From starting a new base, throw your sub-fief on the ground and then place a foundation underneath it, move the sub-fief, then build another set of foundations above it. I'd personally recommend between 2 and 3 foundations above ground, but not 4. Climb up, delete your sub-fief, then replace it atop the new foundation tower. This lifts your build zone up, cutting out the dead space underground and maximising headroom. If you are on flat ground, this could free up another floor worth of space for negligible effort. The key is to know when to stop. If you look down and see a brighter blue texture, that's the floor of the land claim, so you'll want to use the prompt on screen to lower your sub-fief until it's just slightly underground, and if necessary, remove 1 foundation. The sweet spot, it seems, for most builds is, again, between 2 and 3 foundations. It is pretty much always worth doing this and trying to get as much livable space out of your land claim as possible, especially if you're using an advanced sub-fief, or else you are effectively paying part of your tax for an area you can't even use. No taxation without being able to build workstations? Tip 3 is a practical one, and that is to use as much space as possible. Unlike Conan Exiles or other survival building games, Dune gives you a set amount of space to build within, and between storage, refineries, workbenches and more, there's a lot you'll need to fit into those spaces. Therefore, you should use as much of your available space as possible, especially in a regular sub-fief or the first area of an advanced. Dune is a game that requires you to have a lot of things in your base, and a lot of them aren't exactly small either, so maximising the available livable space you have is essential. If you're using an advanced sub-fief, you can use staking units later on to extend your land claim, so sometimes you can afford aesthetics over practicality. However, as a general tip, and especially for early to mid-game bases, maximise your livable space as much as possible, especially in that first fief zone. Tip number 4 features one of Dune's best building features, and that tip is to use holograms often. Whether you're a new builder or you're coming in with tons of experience in other titles, the hologram feature is just so useful that it can't be overlooked. By tapping instead of holding the build key, you'll create a hologram of that piece for free. You can construct an entire base like this to fully visualise a design without ever spending a single resource, and if something doesn't work as you would like, you can just remove it. The hologram is also a really useful tool for learning how building in Dune Awakening works. It does all the usual trial and error without actually committing any resources, and it gives you an accurate scale and representation of what you can expect your design to look like. Again, this is just a super useful quality of life feature, and you should be using it often, even if you're an experienced builder. Finally, tip number 5 is targeted at the mid-game, and that is to leave some flat space on your roofs and balconies. In the steel tier, you'll get access to wind traps and wind turbines, devices that will passively generate water and power respectively. These are essential tools for keeping on top of your resource demands, but they need to be outside your base to be effective. Therefore, you'll want to have flat space on your roof or on balconies to place them. This might seem strange at first, putting valuable machinery outside of your walls, but they're perfectly safe in your land claim so long as your base has power. It's nice to leave them accessible too, just in case you need to manually interface with them. You can refuel the wind turbines from the sub-fief console, but you'll have to manually put filters in your wind traps, so therefore I'd recommend putting those on balconies. This is something you will want to keep in mind whilst building. It's not the end of the world if you have to retrofit a balcony or level a roof to get these in later, but making these spaces is a habit you'll want to build, as these technologies will remain relevant up until the endgame. And there we have it, 5 functional building tips for Dune Awakening that will help you get the most out of your base. As mentioned earlier, if you'd like some aesthetic tips on how to make your base as beautiful as possible, let me know and I'll see what I can do. On that note, thanks for watching, and a massive thanks to our wonderful esteemed coffee cultists for continuing to support the channel over on Patreon. If you want to support the channel here on YouTube and get some exclusive perks, take a look at the new channel memberships available by clicking join just below this video. Take care, and I'll see you soon.